What's up, everyone? We are back with part 2, and we are starting off with my broken knitting needle. Unfortunately, as you can see, my knitting needle got snapped in half. It was a tragic accident. I had my project just sitting haphazardly on the couch, and my kid was being a kid, jumping on the couch. I don't even think he was really jumping. He was just like walking, standing to see out the window. And he like looks over at me and he's like, "I'm so sorry about your knitting needles." And I was like, "Oh, that's okay, bud. What are you talking about?" And then I like looked closer and he's like holding my broken knitting needles. And I'm just like, "Oh man. Yeah, I can't really fault you." So it was super sad, but I didn't get mad. Accidents happen, and it was my fault for just leaving it around. So, fortunately, I had a backup set of size 6 circular needles. So, that's what I'm doing here, is just transferring everything over. The hard part isn't this part because I'm just like continuing on in my pattern. I didn't even just slip the stitches over. I figured I'd save myself some time and just continue. But once I get to the broken needle, and I'm sure there was an easier way to do it to where I wouldn't have had to pull them off of the broken needle, but that sucked because it just like ripped the yarn apart. So yeah, viewer beware. My yarn gets ripped up here in a minute. For anyone who hasn't watched part 1, this is part 2. It's the Ballerina Wrap top by Two of Wands. I found her on Pinterest. She's got a ton of cool patterns. I really recommend everybody go check her out. I'm sure that people who are avid knitters and crocheters are going through a lot of pain watching this right now. It sucked. It was so sad. I don't feel like my project is like completely ruined because of it. I know that some people, I feel like most people in the community treat like minor amounts of damage like the worst possible thing. But I mean, I can't even point out to you where it's at now that I have it like completed. And I also really like visible mending. So if holes do get ripped into it, it's just an opportunity for another project. This was the first sunny day that we've had in so long. It was like 70 degrees this day. So I took the kids outside and I just knitted while they played. It was awesome. We had 2 whole sunny days, and now it's back to like almost snow, but not quite because the temperature's too warm. But we're right back to barely out of the winter. My kid has a bubble gun that's been sitting outside all winter, buried in snow, and I thought for sure that it wasn't gonna work, but it was totally working. So he's over there shooting just like mass amounts of bubbles, and my baby is like so curious. He's never seen bubbles before, and so he's like holding on to the bubble gun and like causing the bubbles to clump up, and they're both just completely covered in bubbles the whole time. And I'm just sitting here knitting, just like, well, I guess I've got kids that I need to wash now. At first I was like concerned that the baby was gonna like try to eat the bubbles, but then I was like, well, he's gonna try a scoop of bubbles and decide that they're gross and then be fine. So then I just kind of dropped that fear pretty quick. I know that it looks like I'm panting, and I kind of am. I am 7 months pregnant now, and I cannot breathe. Ever. This baby is all the way up in my lungs. But also, the video is sped up, so I feel like that also makes it look like I'm panting. I was watching it back and I was like, wow, that looks really weird. I think at this point in the pattern, I am casting on 3 stitches at the end of every row. So it is just growing and growing and growing. And it felt like in the movies when they're like climbing a staircase and the staircase just keeps going and going and it like should be ending, but it isn't. That's what this felt like. The whole time I'm filming like this, I'm just hanging out in the living room with my family. It's been so nice. My husband hasn't been working the past like week or so. So he's just home hanging out with me, helping with the kids. And I don't know, I got to spend like the whole day knitting. And I don't usually get that kind of time. So it was nice to sink that kind of time into it. I don't know when it happened, but all of a sudden I can knit without looking. And I'm sure I make little mistakes, like splitting yarn and stuff. But it is so handy to be able to like watch my kids while also knitting a few stitches at a time. Also, we've got music playing the whole time, so I'm just singing songs here. I'm not. Yes. I don't know what I'm hearing here, but it's music. I'm not just having these conversations all day. At this part in the pattern, you're creating like a hole for your ties to go through. And so I'm like searching for the hole to make sure that I don't pass it, because I'm so paranoid that I'm gonna pass it, even though it's a gaping hole and it's so easy to identify. And then right here, I'm like so sure that I've lost the hole. And I'm like panicking. And I'm like, how did I pass it? How did this happen? What is going on? And I'm panicking and I'm panicking. And then actually it's just right there. I'm like cussing and everything. And I'm like, are you kidding me? We got all this space and I really thought that I passed it. What a joke. Right there, I split some yarn. I'm sure I did that when I was knitting without looking. But it's just hanging on by a thread. And so now I'm trying to fix it to where it's not just a stitch hanging on by a thread. And I think I managed to get it. I'm not sure. I might have made a mess, but there it is. That's my kid that just jumped behind me. He's trying to climb off the back of the couch. Like he's like pushing his legs into my back and trying to like maneuver himself upward to dive off of the back of the couch. I don't know why, but he's got some sort of like death wish. I am like so frustrated with these needles because my other ones have a little like pivot guy and these ones do not. they don't suck. They're fine. Like I struggle to identify like better knitting needles than others. But those ones had the like swivel at the base and they were so nice, and these ones don't have it, and it's just an adjustment. It's not even a big deal. It's like third world problems, you know. Oh, I don't have the swivel on my knitting needles. Where? Dude, but the day before this, we took our kid over to the lake, and he was, well, what's going on here? This might be where I tried to fix that stitch. It looks like I've like dropped a stitch somehow, like on the wrong side of the garment. It looks weird. I think I just ended up picking up the stitch and just calling it a day. And I don't know, yeah. But anyway, we took our kid to the lake and we didn't even get out. We were just looking at rocks. And the whole way there, he was being pretty whiny. And on the way back, we were like, even on the way there, we were like, maybe he's a little dehydrated. We had him drinking like electrolyte drinks, and like we get out there and he's just not having it. Like he's not feeling better. And so we just come right home. But on the way home, he like barfed out all of his stomach contents. And so we took him to look at me jamming. We took him to the doctor, and the doctor was like, "Oh, he's not dehydrated. He's got the flu. He's got the flu." And so we're like, "Okay." And he's like, "Oh, well, don't feed him any solids, blah, 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 blah." And so we're like, "Yeah, okay. Makes sense." So we give him a bunch of Pedialyte and ice cream. And then he like wants to eat the chicken nuggets that I've made. So I feed him the chicken nuggets, and long story short, he ends up being like fine, like the very next day. And I'm just like, are you sure that he wasn't just dehydrated? Because he recovered really quick for it to just be the flu, or for it to, and not just the flu, you know, like you think he would have been, oh, I don't know what I'm trying to say. You think it would have knocked him out a little bit harder for a little bit longer if it was the flu. But he was literally fine, like probably that evening and definitely the next day. To make a super long story short, I think his doctor lied to us. I think that he was dehydrated. And to back up my claim, nobody else in my house got sick. And the neighbor kids that my kid plays with also didn't get sick. My kid is the only one who got sick. This is the ending of that hole for the ties. I broke off the yarn on the one side, and now I'm starting on a new section on the other side of the hole, if that makes sense. So I was working on the left side, cut that piece off, now I'm working on the right side. I think I'm chewing my kid out right here, because he keeps getting in the window and causing a ruckus. Yeah, I just looked over at my husband for his help. Now I'm explaining the problem. I think what the problem was that he has those like magnet tiles, and he keeps building with them in the window, but then like losing them behind the couch, and then throwing a big huge fit that he lost them. So I'm trying to tell him to stop playing with them in the window, and he's ignoring me. And it's like, dude, if you're gonna lose your magnets behind the couch, quit throwing a fit about it. Look at my menacing baby. You can see him in my glasses. He's like, you know what? I don't care about your YouTube video. I just want to play with your phone. By the way, I didn't finish this project, but I don't think I'm going to make another video of it in this same format because I'm just tired of it. And it also doesn't fit me because I made it for a postpartum belly and not a 7-month pregnant belly. So I tried it on, and obviously it doesn't fit. So I just have a few little like finishing details. Like I have to finish off the sleeves and do like a binding around all of the seams. I'm saying that wrong. I know I am. But just like a couple little tiny things that I still need to do. But I've already stretched it across 2 videos, and it's not even gonna fit me for a few more months. So I'm just gonna set it aside for now. I think my next project is either going to be the Animal Crossing fossil crossbody bag, or I'm gonna knit a baby cardigan thing. It says cardigan, but it's short sleeved and it doesn't have an actual baby size. But I wanted to do that with that cashmere that I got in my Temu yarn haul. So I think I'll just feel it out, see what I'm feeling going into another project. If anybody has any input, please let me know. I don't know if anyone can see it coming down out of my left hand, but that edge right there is like so messed up. It's not very straight. I don't know. I assume that it's because I kept casting on in different ways. I started off doing like the knit cast on, and then I noticed that it looked ugly like that. So then I started doing the cable cast on. So I don't really know what happened there, but I do know that you're supposed to do like the I-cord edging hemline kind of thing right there. So I'm hoping that once I get that tacked on, that it will be unnoticeable. Look at this little tiny dude. He like rolls onto the couch and lands upside down and then makes it my problem. I thought it was pretty cute. And then he's just jerking my camera around. And I also thought that was pretty funny. He's just sitting there menacingly. I think this is the row that I connect that hole back into one piece. So instead of like hitting it and going back and forth, I just bridge the gap and yeah, just continue on. In the pattern, it calls that hole a side slit. And so the whole time I'm thinking it's going to be like a vent on the like hip, you know, like the side. And it is not a vent. It is just a hole, and it is for your ties to go through. This is the I-cord ties that I just mentioned. This was really fun to do. I got super into it, except for I had to knit 64 inches of it, then attach it to the bottom of my shirt, and then knit another 60 inches of it. So I was pretty over it pretty quick. But it was fun for a minute. I got pretty into it for a minute. So at the point where I'm doing the I-cord, my husband's in the backyard building a fire pit, and I've literally just been knitting for the entire day. I don't think I've ever spent so many hours just knitting a project, and just for it to never end. Also, it took me so long, and like I said, it's still not done. I will say this I-cord went a lot quicker than you would think it would. And I do think that is because these needles are a size 7, while the pattern calls for a size 6. I only have, in my DPNs, I only have size 7 and a size 4. And so I decided to go up instead of down. At this point in my day-to-day, my mother-in-law came to visit, and she has this like ear cleaning tool that has a camera on it. And so my husband has been spending the past like 4 hours probably just like obsessively digging as deep into his ears to clean them out as possible. And he's like so convinced that he's finding all of this really old earwax, and I am like so sure that it's actually just his eardrum and that he's gonna have like substantial ear problems after this is over. This was so confusing at first, but then once you get the hang of it, it goes pretty smooth. But it was pretty fun to use the 3 knitting needles in this fashion, like, because when you use DPNs, you have all of your stitches attached and everything's in a circle, but this wasn't quite a circle and it felt like normal knitting, but then you're pulling in that 3rd needle. It was really fun, new experience. It was super fun to learn how to do. And so essentially what I'm doing here is like building the I-cord and then attaching it to the bottom of the garment, and then building a piece of I-cord and then attaching it. And so it's like 5 stitches to 1 stitch ratio going on. This did get pretty tiresome after a while though, because you have to do it across like 300 stitches. So after the first like 10, you're just like, okay, I'm here for a while now. I'm here for a long time, not a good time. This is the cast off. It took me a long time to get here. That's why it's dark and my flash is on. And I didn't get very good footage of it, and I apologize. But I'm doing a stretchy cast off that I learned how to do. I don't know if I'm actually doing it right, but you knit 2 together and then you put that stitch back onto your left needle and then repeat until you get to the end. The pattern itself actually didn't specify. I was surprised because it's a really good pattern. It's super detailed, but it didn't specify like fastening off in any sort of fashion. So I just did what I know how to do, and it seemed to have worked out. So no harm, no foul, I guess. This is the almost completed project. I still have to finish those sleeves and then do an I-cord bind off. I have to I-cord all the way down that V-neck and across the back, and then it will be done. Not a lot to do, but I'm just gonna set it aside for now. Yeah, so that's it for now. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. I will catch you in the next one. Make sure to like and subscribe.